Welcome to the Castaway Consultants, where we tell you how to play the reality television show Survivor from the safety of the peanut gallery. We are your three hosts, Derek Kubicek,
Ryan Stacy,
and Josh Wessler.
We are here today to cover the post-merge of Season 3 of Survivor, Africa.
Survivor Africa, Mother Africa.
Woo!
For those of you who have heard the first couple episodes of this or have listened to us before, you kind of know how this rewind series works. We watch Survivor, old Survivor, so you don't have to. Your time is valuable. Obviously, our time is not nearly so valuable, so here we are. Yeah, we'll just jump right into it. So I, again, am Derek Kubicek, and my role on the Survivor Rewind is I have not seen any of these seasons of Survivor before. I might have picked up bits and pieces here and there since I've seen many of the newer seasons, seen returning players. I understand how the game is played, but for the most part, I'm spoiler-free. I don't know much of what's going on.
I'm Ryan Stacy. I am the big super fan here. This is my third rewatch of all of Survivor. I know everything, and I'm a super genius, basically, is what I'm saying.
And so humble.
And very humble.
I'm Josh Wessler. I'm kind of the look back on this, trying to see how memorable the season is. I've watched like 75% of the seasons of Survivor. Missing a chunk in the middle that I'm working on. Getting there.
You've seen this season once, and we're just using you to see how memorable it was.
Yes, and I'm here to, since I saw this like 5-6 years ago, just to see what I remember.
So the big question we have, as we do every time we come on this, is for the people who are considering going back and watching some seasons of Survivor, if they can't do all of it, you should do all of it. But if you can't, we get it. Is the post-merge of Survivor Africa must-watch Survivor?
No, I wavered back and forth in the first part of this season. And if you remember, I think I started by saying that I did not think it was must-watch Survivor. But then I think you convinced me a little bit more because of the twist, the tribe swap twist. The second half, I still didn't think was that memorable. I don't think I missed out on a lot. And I think as long as you watch the first half and just to kind of see the dynamic of the tribe swap, I think you're going to be good. Now, I would recommend almost any season.
Sure.
But I think that you can get away with just listening to this podcast.
And for me, I think context always matters. I'm a very literal person. If you like the season theme, location-based theme Survivor, absolutely, you need to go back and watch this because it's going to be something different, and I certainly haven't seen anything like it Season 1, Season 2, or Seasons 26 through current.
There's nothing like it again, either.
And there's nothing like it again. I guess I wouldn't know that, but thanks for the spoiler.
There isn't. They go back to Africa one more time, and it's a completely different environment in Africa.
So, on that ground, I can't say you shouldn't. In terms of Survivor gameplay, I said it the same way with the pre-merge. I don't think that the post-merge of Africa is must-watch Survivor. We don't really get anything new in terms of gameplay, and there's a couple characters whose names you might remember. There's one in particular who I would classify as unforgettable, but beyond that, there's nothing here. For me, I mean, I loved it, I enjoy it, but this is what I like to do with my free time. If you're just a casual fan and you're thinking, wow, 38 seasons is pretty daunting, to me, go ahead and skip this one.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree once again. I do think Survivor Africa is must-watch Survivor for the same reason I thought the first half was. There's so much here of what not to do. This is how you don't play Survivor pretty much all around. There's some good gameplay here. I think there's a worthy winner, but there's some horrendous gameplay that should have cost some players their games and didn't, and they just got lucky. But yeah, I think if you want a lesson on how not to play Survivor, especially early Survivor, this is it right here. You know, before all the twists and all the craziness that come into this game, if you want a purely social, strategic way of how not to play Survivor, this is it. So I do think this is must-watch because I value learning what not to do almost, if not just as much as what to do. I think it's extremely important. So I will say Africa, both parts of Africa are must-watch.
And I think that's a fair point. There's plenty of examples out there of bad gameplay. So to focus only on that, I think is indifferent.
I just think it's a lot of it, more than usual.
And there is.
Almost a whole season's worth.
And, you know, Ryan, obviously you're the super fan. We here value your opinion. Even if I don't agree with it, I always value it. But, yeah, with that, we're probably going to jump right into the episodes. But, hey, if you're interested at all, for some reason, you know, you want to listen to Ryan or maybe you want to listen to Reason and you know, skip it. If you want to listen to Ryan, we will be spoiling this entire thing. So if you're not in the know, leave now, come back later.
Or just listen.
Or just go
Whatever
ahead
you
and
wanna do.
Whatever you want to do.
But spoiler alert, for the rest of the season, you've been warned. Just real quick refresher of the cast. The 10 remaining people, we got 6 Baran members left and 4 Samburu members left. For the Baran, we have Clarence Black, a basketball coach from Detroit. Kelly Goldsmith, a behavioral analysis from San Diego. Tom Buchanan, Big Tom, a goat farmer from Virginia. Lex Vandenberg, a marketing manager from Santa Cruz, California. Kim Johnson, a retired teacher from New York, Long Island. And Ethan Zahn, a professional soccer player from New York City. And then our 4 Samburu members are Brandon Quinton, a bartender from Dallas. Frank Garrison, a telephone technician from Odessa, New York. Kim Powers, a freelance marketer from somewhere that I can't pronounce, Pennsylvania. And Teresa Cooper, a flight attendant from Jackson, Georgia. That's our 10. And just a quick reminder, we all made winner picks at the beginning of the season. Josh and Derek, yours is still in the game. Kim Powers.
Kim P.
Mine was Silas. He's gone. So my new pick is Ethan. But that's about it. Anything else before we jump into this?
Now let's go.
All right. Postmerge of Africa. Episode 7.
Will there be a feast tonight?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes, there will be.
So we start this merge. We just lost Lindsay. We get back to Samburu, and Brandon and Kim Powers are on the outs. And they're trying to get in with Baran, with Lex and Tom and Kelly. And Brandon's starting to distance himself from Kim Powers a little bit. He's like, yeah, one of us two is going next, probably, if we don't merge. So I'm going to go ahead and toss her a little bit under the bus and, try and outlast her. Good move, Brandon. I think that's the right call.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to personal gameplay, you have to cut ties when you have to cut ties.
In this episode, at one point, they talk about brunch. And Frank doesn't know what brunch is.
Oh, yeah, that was actually insane.
Yeah, it's just so mind-blowing, and I love Frank. Frank's one of my favorite players on this season. But how do you not know what brunch is? I'm baffled.
He's kind of like our own personal little Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
Except Ron Swanson loves brunch.
I know, but just his social attitude, the way he is with people, and you can't be surprised with anything. You're like, that's just Frank. So I guess I wasn't surprised, but I loved it because he sat there with his elbow on his knee. What is this brunch?
So it's like breakfast and lunch?
When do you eat it?
What do you eat? It was just so weird. Just a little thing I love.
I figured everyone knows what brunch is.
So anyway, we finally get to the immunity challenge where we finally get the merge. And the immunity challenge is they have to hold their hand above their head and it's tied to a bucket of water. And if they move their hand too much, the whole bucket's going to come down on them. And it ends up coming down to Clarence and Teresa. And they end up deciding to play rock, paper, scissors to finally decide. And the winner will get immunity. And Jeff has been giving temptations out this whole challenge. So the winner of rock, paper, scissors will get immunity. The loser will get a pizza or something like that. We'll get some food.
Yeah, it was like a small personal pizza. And a Mountain Dew.
Ooh. But what was interesting to me is Clarence is going to be the person who goes home in this first episode. And he is scheming and plotting like crazy during this challenge. And I don't think that was the best call on his part.
I think he knew on some level that he was the one to go home. Maybe he was under some kind of impression that Samburu would be the first 4 to go, but he also knew that he'd been on the outs. He knew that he had a lot of votes. So if it for some reason came down to a tie, he probably loses. I think at this point, you got to play an all or nothing kind of game. That being said, he gives up immunity at the end. If you're trying that hard, you don't give it up on rock, paper, scissors.
No, terrible move. I have no problem with scheming. Like, if you are at the bottom and you feel like you have no chance, I am perfectly fine with you trying to make a deal up there. But then that exact explanation just makes it no sense when you go to rock, paper, scissors. Like, don't leave it up to chance.
Clarence kind of does the worst of both worlds here, I think. I think he does everything wrong because I think he points a target on his back even more than there already was by scheming and plotting so much. He doesn't follow through with it, like, at all, and just goes home and then loses this immunity challenge to rock, paper, scissors. I don't think Clarence is very good at Survivor.
Well, and especially when you are very, very obviously, like, the physical specimen that Clarence is. You know you're going to be a huge target coming right out of the merge. Yeah, winning immunity obviously is going to put a target on your back, but you're going to have a target on your back no matter what. So you don't give it up to chance. Put it in your own hands.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Ryan. I think this was absolutely the worst of both worlds. I'm not going to go so far to say as he's bad at Survivor.
Okay. Yeah.
But
he's not great.
But
he's had many things go against him that would show that he's bad at Survivor.
if you're keeping track on a report card, yeah, he's, D's get degrees. I guess he made it on the show and we're not there. The only thing I have to say about it is by forfeiting on rock, paper, scissors, you're kind of like the antelope in Africa who just laid down and let the lions come and feast.
Yep. So anyway, Teresa wins immunity. We go back to camp and we just get more of Frank being Frank. He's socially isolated. They play a game of I Never, and everybody's having a good time. And he's like, I never violated a handshake or something like that. The honor of a
and
handshake.
everyone's just like, oh, well, that wasn't fun.
And then he walks away to go back and do his thing.
And then the confessional was great. He said, you know what? It was really great to play a game and get to hang out with everyone and, let loose a little bit. Meanwhile, everyone else is talking about,
Just like, well, that was weird.
more of that not safe for work subjects. And then Frank out of nowhere just never broken a handshake.
And
I guess he's got a southern accent now.
Yeah, he's from New York. And then he goes out and hangs out with elephants instead. I mean, I get that, but
That was cool.
that was really cool. But it's just Frank is such an interesting guy to me. Like, he's a fascinating person. I'm so glad that he was on the show. He would never fly today on Survivor. It would go horribly for him on every level. But I'm glad we got someone like him on Survivor.
Well, and I remembered when we were watching the premiere of this, I think Derek was saying that Frank was going to be one of the first people voted out, if not just the first. And I think if we were playing Survivor today, I think Frank definitely would have been a very, very likely candidate for first boot.
So Clarence is the target of this vote. All the Baran is going to turn on him. They've got the rest of Samburu on board. But then Lex does an interesting thing. And he tells Clarence, yeah, you're going home tonight. And this annoys some people on his tribe. Kelly and Kim J are annoyed that he did this. Which, yeah, I don't think you should ever tell somebody they're going home. I think this is terrible. Let's say you are going to vote Clarence out. You need to keep that on the DL because what's to stop Clarence from flipping and join Samburu? Samburu sucks and can't get their crap together. That's what's to stop it. But this is horrible on Lex's part.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't really understand what the benefit is because Clarence isn't going to be a member of the jury.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lex thinks that he's going to be. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, that's very very little upside to telling him.
Yeah, this is bad on Lex's part. Really bad. He annoys his own tribes. He makes a bad strategic move. It's bad. Teresa is not going to vote for Clarence because of the rock, paper, scissors game. They make a pact. They won't vote for each other. Fair enough. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
So Tribal Council ends up being 8 votes for Clarence, 2 votes for Lex. So Clarence, because he's annoyed at Lex for telling, like, hey, screw you, dude. Clarence votes for Lex. Teresa's like, yeah, I'll vote for Lex too, sure. This is one of the biggest moves of the game, and we don't even know it yet.
What should she do instead?
I think she does the right thing.
I think that there are 2 moves for Teresa here. And honestly, both are safe for her. This does not put her in a worse position either way. But she ends up playing this right, even if she didn't realize it. And we'll get into that next episode.
I don't really have a huge problem with Clarence going home here. The way he goes out is bad, especially from Lex's part. But I don't hate that they voted out here because they still have the numbers advantage, and you get rid of a huge physical threat. And they just saw Colby playing.
I would be a little bit careful because now you're only up by 1, and that all it takes is one person to flip and realize that they're on the bottom to kind of really mess with your strategy. But at the same time, I completely get voting him out.
Yeah, maybe Brandon or Frank would have been smarter.
Well, then Clarence can be used like we said, just as like a voting pawn and flip himself.
It's not I won't go as far as to say it's a bad move. I don't think it was the best move, but I think it's ultimately fine. I just don't like the way Lex did it.
Yep.
And honestly, with that, I think I just want to go into my worst player of the episode, which is far and away Lex.
Far and away Lex.
Yeah.
He annoys his own alliance, telling Clarence he's going home. He receives 2 votes, and again, previous votes matter for tiebreakers and stuff. So yeah, all around, Lex is easily the worst player, and it's not close.
No, not close.
Best player is, almost in hindsight, it's Teresa.
And it's not even in hindsight. For me, I say absolutely Teresa. I mean, even at the time, she was arguably at the bottom of her tribe. So if Samburu is targeted, it's probably her. I mean, you could throw a toss-up for Frank or Teresa at that point, I think. She wins immunity.
Saves herself, guaranteed a spot in the jury now.
And puts an extra vote on Lex. And that, again, in hindsight, we'll definitely see is the best move.
Put 2 votes on somebody, maybe that'll help with the tiebreaker. I think it was smart to team up with whoever Clarence was going after. And it turns out the least stable person out there got the votes. And it's going to just cause so much chaos. Turns out to be a brilliant move, and I don't think anybody could have anticipated that.
No, I think it was more lucky than anything, or just ended up happening. But yeah, I would agree that she was the best player.
All right, moving on. Episode 8, Smoking Out the Snake. So Lex is going nuts about this mystery vote. He's losing his marbles. Teresa doesn't bring up that she voted for him. She was going to, I'm sure, but then she sees Lex losing his mind and goes, oh, okay, I'm not going to say anything about that, which is brilliant.
And there's times where it's good to come clean on
Sure.
something like that. Just be like, yo, just be honest. Like, I did this, and this is why I did it. No hard feelings.
And this is a time to not do that.
No,
This is a
definitely
time where
not.
lying is good.
Yeah, and this is all good on Teresa. But quick aside, Ryan, do you think that this vote is a reason that a lot of people have little calling signs in their votes now?
It's 100% a thing. People will put little markers on, like maybe a star. Here, I'm going to vote for this person tonight. I'll prove it to you. I'm going to put a star on my vote. That's how you know.
I'll dot my I with a heart.
That's 100% a thing.
To make sure
they don't
that,
show it on the show, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're watching, if you're ever wondering, like, why did they put a heart over Eric's eye? Well, that's because they wanted everyone to know that that was them who put that vote on there.
Which is like an interesting component of Survivor.
It's an extra layer.
Which they never talk about.
Never.
Which, it's hard to get across maybe on the TV show, but I think it's fascinating.
Absolutely. But like you said, Lex is going absolutely insane. And I love Teresa. She's like, I think I'm just going to hold on to this little piece of information because Lex, he's going to go ahead and draw his own conclusions. And he ends up on Kelly.
Yeah, he somehow thinks Kelly is the person who voted for him.
Was there? Now I don't remember. Was there any logic behind that?
It was his gut. Just his gut.
Yeah,
That-
just always trust your gut.
That was
Especially in Survivor.
because of the way that she was treating him before and afterward. He just had this funny feeling about her, and then just nobody argued with him.
Ethan ends up winning reward, and he gets this big village trip, and he takes Lex to go with him. And again, normally I don't like bringing up reward challenges because they don't matter, but what always interests me is people, when they have to pick people to go on rewards. I think that is make or break gameplay sometimes. Picking Lex, I think, is fine, because he took second place, and you kind of just, like, throw it out there. Like, oh yeah, you got second, it's fine. And it's early enough in the merge where there isn't a lot of bad blood yet, really.
Well, and I think it's actually a really good move.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of seeing Lex starting to become a little unhinged here. And if you can just get on his good side a little bit, it should swing completely your way.
Sure.
If he's way against like some of the other people, he should really swing your way. So I think it was a really good move to bring him, because now you should have an ally to be a number through the rest of the game if you both make it. And if you're lucky enough to get there, hopefully be a jury vote.
Sure.
It's more the foundation of it all.
So later, Teresa wants to try and make a move. She gets Kim P and Brandon on board with her and Frank, allegedly. And Kim P tries to get Kelly, because Lex thinks it's Kelly. So,
Okay.
and Kelly at this point is no-go. She's going to stick with Baran. But that's going to change, because Ethan ends up winning immunity. His only one, which is really surprising. He wins his only 2 challenges individually this season. In this episode, he never wins another one, which is crazy, because he's a professional athlete.
And to have them both in the same episode.
Yep. But Lex does a really bad job of reassuring Kelly, like, oh, no, it's okay. At this point, Lex has got the rest of his tribe turned on Kelly. They're going to vote Kelly out. But he goes to Kelly and does a horrible job at, like, reassuring her that, oh, no, it's okay. And Kelly's like, oh, they're going to come for me. I'm going to flip. Fair enough, Kelly.
Hey, better than just telling her, hey, we're going to vote for you tonight.
Yeah.
Back to back.
It ends up being Brandon is the swing vote. So this is such a crazy vote to me. This is so crazy.
To me, this is the most important vote in the entire
Yeah.
post-merge.
Because it ends up being 5 votes for Kelly, 4 votes for Lex. And this is a lot of bad gameplay here. Because now it's 4-4 Baran Samburu. And yeah, Brandon's kind of a wild card, but still, you came into the 6-4 and now you've tied it up. Good job, Baran, not.
Horrible. Thinking about who should it have been. Literally anybody on Samburu if you're from the Power Tribe. And Samburu, how did you manage to lose Brandon to Lex, Big Tom, and Ethan? I get it from a certain perspective. Brandon wanted to guarantee himself 5th place, but in modern Survivor, that doesn't happen anymore.
I don't think that's it. I honestly don't.
That's what he said.
It's more than that, though. Brandon will not work with Frank. Brandon is gay. Frank is not openly homophobic, but he doesn't.
He's extremely conservative.
Extremely conservative. Not a big fan of gays.
Quote, his lifestyle.
His lifestyle
is what it said.
Is what Frank says. Brandon hates Frank with a passion.
It's like a meaner version of what Rudy was.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as lighthearted. And so I get that he doesn't want to be seen allying with this man who's against Brandon's life, basically. I get it. It's horrific gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, from a moral perspective, I understand where Brandon is coming from, but this is not how you play Survivor.
Well, and to just do a quick fast forward, in the reunion show, Brendan had mentioned where he wanted to have a different portrayal of homosexual people on television. I don't think aligning himself with Frank would have really been doing himself a favor.
Sure.
So just backing up your reasoning of what you're saying.
Yeah, so I don't know if Brandon's goal was to win this game at this point. I think it was just to spite Frank, honestly.
I mean, he even said that in Final Tribal, too. He's just like, I just wanted to take one more jab at Frank.
Yeah. But in terms of gameplay, this is horrible for Brandon. This is horrible for Braun. Pick a Samburu, any of them can go home. Doesn't matter. Pick one. Voting for Kelly is idiotic on all of their parts. I blame all of them. Brandon should have stuck with his group. The only people who play this right are Kelly, Teresa, Kimpi, and to a lesser extent, Frank. Everybody else is so wrong, it's insane.
And I think we're actually going to have a little bit of a disagreement here on worst player of the episode, but Ryan...
It's Lex.
You think it's Lex for flying off the handle and basically turning his tribe on its head and causing a little bit of civil strife there?
That, not reassuring Kelly, being completely wrong with his gut about the vote on him, which isn't even that big a deal in the first place, turning on Kelly and receiving 4 more votes.
And you know what? I can't argue with you. I can't, but I think Brandon is the worst player of the episode. And that's because I think this is the single worst move in the entire season. And you know what? That loses you the episode for me. This was your chance to put your tribe on top. This was your chance to capitalize, and you did not do it. And you didn't do it because of either, lifestyle differences with Frank, which I get. You want to be portrayed in a certain way. I totally understand that. But this was the chance. This was the opportunity.
It's true.
And he blew it. So, to me, Brandon's the worst.
What it is for me is Brandon wouldn't have had this opportunity if it wasn't for Lex in the first place. So Lex destroyed everything and gave Brandon the chance to make a move.
Like I said, I can't argue with it. I can't forgive.
It's horrendous all around.
I'm going to side with Derek.
Okay.
But I think it's really a toss-up.
Yeah, they're both wrong.
I have no extra reasoning, but I'm going to very, very, very slightly side with Derek on this one.
Fair enough. Best player, I think, is Teresa, because she keeps her mouth shut, increases Lex paranoia some more, and she gets Kim P on her side, which is crazy considering where they were at the beginning of the season. So she does get Kim P at the very least, which ends up getting Kelly. This should have worked. This should have worked, Teresa. I'm so sorry.
Teresa is the only one on Samburu who's still got some teeth.
Kim P a little bit.
Kim P's trying, but Teresa's actually got the teeth. Like, it's one thing if an animal's trying to bite you and it's an herbivore and doesn't have a strong jaw. I'm not trying to talk poorly about Kim P, but it really seemed like Teresa had some pull with the older people on the Buran tribe. She had some of that charisma, and then she had made some moves that put her into a position to change things. I mean, she is the one who caused Lex to go berserk, even if it was by accident. So Teresa is the best player in this episode.
I maintain Teresa's the best strategic player this season.
And I want to see her again.
Episode 9 is the closer look episode, which we're just going to skip on by.
Aww.
And episode 10, Dinner, Movie, and a Betrayal. What a fun episode this is. The rest of Buran does not trust Brandon, which is fair. He just flipped on his old tribe.
Very fair.
Not a good reason to trust the guy, but Lex is going really far to protect Brandon. Too far, I'd say. Great. This guy helped you out. I get you like the guy. Lex and Brandon are liked each other a lot. They're friends. You gotta let him go. If the rest of your tribe's like, yo, we don't trust Brandon. Okay, they don't have to trust him. You need to cater to them. They outnumber you. Lex, you gotta let Brandon go.
And this is absolutely something that comes up at the end of the season, too. They're talking to Lex. Do you feel like you put yourself at the head of the action too much? This is an example of you putting yourself at the front on the white horse, as Big Tom so eloquently put somewhere towards the end of the season. Let your tribe pick. It's no skin off your nose. It's one more of Samburu gone. And guess what? It's not you. You just had 3 really irrational days, and this next one is not you. Let him do it.
Let him do it. And ultimately, he will. He doesn't join up with them, but he lets it happen, ultimately, because Brandon's going to go home here. But yeah, Lex, you got to back down. You know, you have these morals and principles, and that's great in real life, but I'm going to go ahead and say Lex is a bad Survivor player. I think he's bad at Survivor. He's great at the physical game, but socially and strategically, he's not great. I think Lex is a very poor Survivor player.
You know, I don't think that he's a poor Survivor player. I think he can't play from the top. I would love to see Lex in a minority tribe. I would love to see him as a swing vote. playing from the top, I don't think he played well at all. I think he actually got as far as he did despite everything he did.
I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's an average Survivor player with potential to be a really good Survivor player, but everyone has faults in the game. His are just way out of proportion compared to other people's faults. Some people just aren't good at like a social game. Whatever. It might keep you from winning the game, but you can still come close with it. Lex still came really close to winning this thing.
I don't know if it's,
but
another hot take. I don't think it's as close as it seemed.
And maybe, I mean, I consider really close to winning this game as in getting third place.
Sure.
And that's through all the faults that he had. And I don't think you can really get that far playing like that and still be called a bad Survivor player.
Oh, I strongly disagree, but we'll see. We'll tackle this more.
That is fine.
One of the worst Survivor players of all time got fourth place, and this was a Final 3 season. One of the probably arguably bottom 2 player of all time got fourth place.
And I think there's a difference between getting third because you're a good player, or at least an average player, and getting third because you're just like a GOAT or something.
Because Lex is no GOAT. He's many things, but he's no GOAT.
No, he's not a GOAT, but he's not a good player. Anyway, Brandon states that he refuses to align with Frank for any reason, which it just kind of gives him his motive for the last episode. Unfortunately, he's got to align with Frank, because we get the team challenge where they randomly draw names and everybody's got to pair up to win a reward, and Brandon and Frank are paired up and they end up winning a movie date.
Please tell me if this was organic and not set up.
Yeah, it's so funny. It is so amazing. Tom and Kim P they're great. They're dancing around. They're partners, and they're having a grand old time because Tom and Kim P are best of friends. They're making fun of Brandon and Frank, and it's so good.
Now everybody's laughing.
Now I don't remember what the challenge was. What was the challenge?
Obstacle course.
Oh, okay.
But Brandon and Frank end up on top, and everybody loves it. It's so good.
And for the third time in as many seasons, we see Survivor clearly trying to set us up on a date.
And it would have worked so much better if it would have been just like an actual like couple-y scenario, but this worked just as well. It was amazing. Entertainment-wise.
So much better.
This is the closest we've gotten to sex on Survivor.
Yeah, it's definitely closer than Jerry and Colby.
So after the reward, Tom actually recruits Frank into the alliance to get rid of Brandon, because Tom doesn't trust Brandon. None of them trust Brandon, so Tom wants to fix this. He gets Frank on board, and Tom and Frank really like each other. They're both good old boys, kind of, you know. And Lex ends up winning immunity, fire-making immunity. So, Tribal Council. It ends up being 6 votes for Brandon, 2 votes for Frank. Lex ends up letting it go, but he does vote with Brandon for Frank. I think this is the right move. I think Brandon is the right person to go here. The Baran, they back in control. They're now up 4-3. I think it doesn't matter which Samburu goes. Any of them go. You take your pick. Who cares? But I think this is 100% the right move here.
And here's the problem. You've got this divide between Brandon and Frank. If they would have chosen and just built a bridge and aligned, they could have done some wacky stuff.
Yep.
Lex has a lot of votes now. You can try and split something there. So, it depends on who you root for when you say who was the right vote. Because, when you have a 4-4 split, to me, strategically, there is no right person to go home. It's just from whose perspective. Absolutely, if you're Baran tribe, Brandon is the right move because he's the easiest target and he's the rift on the Samburu side. But if you're Samburu, Frank, Brandon, come on, you just went to a movie together. Bury the hatchet for long enough to go up 4-3. This is absolutely infuriating for me to watch because you don't see this in Modern Survivor. You see people bury the hatchets and pull things out of nowhere. You make things out of nothing, and this is just not a season where that's going to happen.
The right move for me is what is the best move for the most people. That's, for me, the right move. Was the right move made? It's that the majority made the right move.
This isn't the right move for Teresa or Kim P.
Teresa, Kim P, Frank, this is not the right move. But if you have someone who will not work with you, you can't get them. What can you do? They can't make this happen. They can't do it. And so for the 3 who can make anything, for Kim J, for Tom, and for Ethan, the 3 people who can make something that they want happen, they made the right move 100% for the 3 of them.
He seems like someone who would flip back and forth.
Sure.
So I think it is a good move just to, there's no such thing as stability in Survivor, but to get closer to something like stability.
And honestly, any of the Samburus could have gone here, and I think it's fine, but I think the Brandon vote is just fine.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it.
Best player? I think is Tom. Because he's the one who gets Frank on board and by proxy, Kim P and Teresa to get rid of Brandon.
I don't think there's any other choice here, honestly. I am still livid at Samburu for... again, we only see, 1% of 1% here.
Yep.
But your tribe is still in shambles. Tom.
I don't have enough information to work off of for me, so I'm going to trust you.
Worst player is Lex again, because he's defending Brandon too much.
It sounds like it, and he was the only one to not vote that way.
And I don't like that either. Granted, that could look like jury management at this point, and I guess that's
Sure.
fine.
But it's pissing off the rest of his tribe.
Yeah,
his alliance.
You don't get any jury votes if you don't make it to the end.
Yeah.
So
This will sit badly with Kim, Ethan, and especially Tom for the rest of the game.
the only other person who can be discussed here as worst player would be Frank, just because, again, you're refusing to work with the people who might get you further.
Frank isn't refusing, though. That's the thing. Frank, Teresa, and Kimpi were all totally open to it. It's 100% on Brandon.
Okay. Then I'm
He's
cool
the
with-
cause of it, but I don't think you can
but-
fault someone for that.
Tough. You're going to have to work with people you don't like on Survivor. Oh, it's $1 million
Yes.
bucks. Tough. And, Frank was willing to do it, to his credit. It was 100% Brandon who wasn't. Episode 11, We Are Family. And very briefly, we start off with the Survivor auction, and we get one of the greatest moments ever with Tom and Ethan splitting their money to buy a mystery item, which turns out to be breakfast. Eggs, hash browns, I think, pancakes, and bacon, which is ham. Ethan's Jewish, he can't eat it. So Tom starts dancing around. He's a Jew. He can't eat the ham.
I don't remember this, but I love it.
It's so funny.
It's one of the more memorable moments. And there was this whole build up to it, too. Tom is so theatrical with this. He's like...
Oh, I can picture it. I can absolutely picture it. I don't remember it, though.
This is a mystery item, right? So it's got the platter cage over it, and he doesn't know what he bought, and he peeks underneath. He's like, Jeff, I'm gonna kill you. After I kiss you, you did me right. You did me right. And then he just pulls it off.
And he runs around. He's holding the plate, running around like a maniac. I thought he was gonna trip and fall. He's like, he's a Jew. He won't eat the ham. And everybody else is just dying. So amazing auction moment. Yeah, just all around. Lex wins the story time immunity challenge. Lex is on a roll here.
I like the story time immunity.
Me too.
challenges.
It's always fun. And then we get Frank showing his sensitive side. He opens up to the group a little bit. And he's like, I like to mingle with people sometimes, and I thought today maybe I should open up, show them a little sensitive, sensual side of myself.
Did you say sensual?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And he starts talking about
Those liberal special interest group always suppressing the opinion of the American worker and
working man, NRA, Second Amendment rights, yada, yada, yada. And everybody else is like, okay, stop.
you hear it in the background. Frank, stop.
Okay, enough.
You just hear Teresa I think if you listen closely, you can hear the sound of Teresa and Kim P's games crashing into the ground.
Yep.
Because it's gone. It's gone.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I love Frank. Yeah, Frank's gonna go home here. This is not the move, Frank.
And this isn't the reason why he went home, is
No,
it?
But I don't think it helped.
I mean, if they're choosing between the remaining Samburu,
Frank is the least liked by the rest of the group.
yeah,
Besides
I mean,
Tom,
that
I
might
think.
be a reason to keep
Tom
him.
really likes Frank, but I think the rest of them all don't really like Frank.
Might be a reason to keep him.
Maybe. And I think there's some benefit to keeping him, which I'll get to in a second. But just keep your political and religious beliefs to yourself.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
Now, especially in a group, if you are out with somebody, let's say on a walk to get some firewood or to get water, and somebody else brings it up and you happen to have similar beliefs, politically, religiously, whatever, cool, you can bond over that. That's great. You can form a strong alliance that way. But in a giant group setting, especially if it's something controversial, nope, you stay far away from that.
Yeah.
And fun fact, this is actually pretty good advice for real life too.
Mm-hmm.
In large groups of people, you have to be delicate with how you share this kind of thing. Not that I'm any kind of guru in terms of social interaction here. That's why I podcast, so I can talk to nobody.
It's true.
But Frank, come on, man. This is a game for $1 million, and you're bringing up some pretty fringe opinions here, and it's not where you live. If someone does bring up a political belief in a group, I think I know what the move is. It's read the room. How do you go about reading the room? What do you look for? What do you listen for? If someone has made a declaration, something fringe, something that's going to make air, and people at home are going to be, ooh, what do you do?
You say nothing. If he's in your alliance, maybe there's a different move, but hopefully at this point in the game, you know other people's like viewpoints on most of this stuff. All this is coming out from Frank because he's choosing to finally open up a little bit. These other people, you probably know a decent amount about them at this point and what they would react positively or negatively to. So I think you'd be able to use a little more judgment on that. But my gut would say just don't really say anything.
I say don't say anything. Watch other people's expressions, and then later on in one-on-one conversations, be like, "Boy, what do you think about what Frank was saying earlier? That was some stuff, wasn't it?" And then you can work from there. But I think in a big group setting, you don't say a word.
And you know what? I would even go one step further, and I think you're 90% of the way for me, Ryan. I think you don't say anything, and I think you go on not saying anything. They have their shovel. Let them dig their own grave. And
I always like to help people dig their graves.
If it's something like this, though, I think other people will take enough note of it. If they talk to you about it in private,
Sure.
yeah, absolutely. You can give your thoughts of how you feel about that. Still be thoughtful. Still be cognizant. But I think I just keep quiet and try to read the room.
I think you can have these kinds of conversations one-on-one if you like talk to people like, "Oh, just what did you think about that?" And it's a good way to build a bond and get, maybe you can build a stronger alliance off of it. So that's why I say, when you're off one-on-one, that's key. One-on-one, one other person, go ahead and talk about it. And I always love the move to help them dig their own grave a little bit. Yeah, I'll just pour a little bit more dirt on Frank there. That's fine. I'll help. I have no problem doing that. Teresa tries to get Kim Johnson on board to join the group to vote Ethan out because Ethan might win the game. Teresa's got a read on this, and Kim ends up spilling the beans. She tells Ethan's like, yeah, they want to get you out, and basically goes back and tells Teresa, no, I'm not interested. This is a horrendous move, and I think this is where Kim Johnson loses the game right here. Because honestly, she should flip.
Do you think that she would have been able to beat any of them?
She could beat Frank.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess I was putting her up against Teresa.
We're at 7. And I think Kim Johnson, I think the right move here is to flip, knock Ethan out of the game, knock Tom and Lex out, and then you're in Final Four with Kim P, Frank, and Teresa. And trying
you can beat all of them except for Teresa, probably.
I think Kim P could probably beat Kim J, because everybody seems to like Kim P. But Kim J can beat Frank easy. She might win. She'll probably win 6-1. She'll probably get every vote but Tom's. Honestly, I mean, maybe Teresa's.
So do you think that? Okay, so now are you saying that you think that she can beat one of those 3 people?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there's no one she can beat on the other side?
I think she has a shot against Lex, but I think she's got a better shot against Frank. I don't think she can beat anybody else.
Okay.
I think the pecking order right now is bottom of the barrel is Frank, then Kim J, then Lex.
Mm-hmm. To me, that's kind of the deciding factor.
Yeah.
I think it's a toss-up, like, on both sides, 1-1. Actually, no. I still, for some reason, I still think that Lex would beat her.
I think Lex would too. But I think she has a chance.
Oh, okay.
Like there's a shot in there, but against Frank, I think she wins hands down.
Yeah, then I guess that'd be my decision then.
So if I'm Kim J, I flip here. I knock out Ethan. I think Ethan should be the person to go home.
And if not Ethan, then any of those other guys.
Yeah, or Tom. You can't vote out Lex because he's won immunity. But Tom is a good pick too. Tom is super dangerous.
Yeah.
He's got a great social game. Ethan or Tom, Ethan's the one they throw out there. I think Ethan's the most dangerous of those 3. I say Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else to add other than, Ryan, you were right. This is just great examples of colossally bad gameplay. Constant barrage of shooting yourself in the foot and not taking advantage of opportunities. Granted, this is season 3, and honestly, between the 3 seasons, this is the first one there where there are legitimate cracks that can be exploited, and nobody is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it's interesting because when you get to this point in the game, you get these couple people, like these 2 or 3 people that could really like decide where their game goes. And you should, as a player, be able to recognize, am I better off going this way or going this way? Yeah, and now you could really have like a false sense of where you are in the game.
Sure.
And you could feel super secure and think that you're in a really good spot with who you are with, but you should be able to narrow down, I can beat this person, this person, this person. I can't beat this person, this person, this person. And usually at this point in the game, in any season, that you have people being able to kind of choose their path.
Yeah. You got to think about who likes who's going to be on the jury, who does everybody not like. Nobody likes Frank.
It's tough to make those decisions.
Sure.
I think any earlier than this. It's almost like this number here.
7's a big moment.
Yeah, that you're now close enough to really pick and choose based on numbers.
And one thing that modern Survivor still, to me, has over Classic Survivor is even if people make the wrong moves by flipping, I still love to see flips happen from just a gameplay analysis standpoint, because then you can look at the hindsight. Where were you? How much further could you have taken that roller coaster? But in this season, it's just inaction ends up being the deciding factor 9 out of 10 times. And it's infuriating because I've seen the game played at its probably best.
So it ends up being 6 votes for Frank because Teresa and Kim P can't say Frank. It's over. Might as well just pile on, I guess. 1 vote for Kim J. I don't know. Maybe I think if the previous votes things affect, might as well just throw a few more random votes out there. Throw more on Lex. Why not? But regardless, 1 vote for Kim Johnson. Worst player, I think, is Kim Johnson. She needed to flip on Ethan and instead eliminated the one person she could have beaten. Kim Johnson, I think, is drawing dead basically at this point. Maybe she can beat Lex. Maybe. And that is it.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that.
Kim is the worst player this episode. I've got nothing else to add here.
Best player, I think, is actually Ethan, because he and Tom have a great bonding session over. They're kind of like, what is up with Lex? What is his deal? Why was he so thing with Brandon? So the two of them kind of reinforce their bond some more. Ethan has a great bond with Kim J. She saves him. The detriment of her own game, she saves Ethan, and Ethan also gets Frank eliminated. So
Is Ethan the first person that she went to?
yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, I would agree.
Ethan's the best player here as well.
Episode 12, The Big Adventure. And this, we won't have a lot to talk about here because half of this episode is the reward. But we start with the Loved Ones Challenge. Basically, they have to answer... It's like the match game. You have to match answers about yourself with what your loved ones say about you. And Lex ends up winning. The only thing we need to mention here is we find out Ethan's biggest fear is vomiting. It's important. Setup.
Even if it doesn't really pay off in show.
Yeah, but it pays off behind the scenes, allegedly. Lex ends up winning, takes time with, Tom gets really drunk, and they go on a safari, and we can see a lion eat a gazelle or an antelope or something. It's half the episode done.
Yep, and the only interesting thing about it, and we're going to go ahead and skip the weather report at the end of this episode, this is literally the only time in the whole season where there's rain, and it doesn't even rain at camp. It rains at the reward only.
Which is a distance away from the main camp. So it rains where Tom and Lex are, but it doesn't rain at camp. So we have a weapon throwing immunity challenge, which Tom wins, and he's really good at this.
Yeah, when he hit those pots, they exploded.
It's cool. So Teresa tries to get Kim Johnson on board. Let's force a tie, 3-3. We'll knock Lex out. He's not immune. Let's do this. But at this point, I don't think she should flip anymore. She missed her opportunity to think. I think Kim's only chance is a maybe against Lex. I think they're the bottom 2 players, and they should go to the end together. So I don't think Kim should flip anymore.
In Modern Survivor, taking out Lex at this point might add to your proverbial Survivor resume. And to me, this is still a good move. I have a biased opinion, obviously, now, but at this point, I actually was pretty high on Kim J. I thought this was going to be a better jury, and I didn't think that Kim J was making anybody angry. So I still think it's the move for her to try and disrupt the top 3 alliance of Tom, Ethan, and Lex. Because at 4, you're going home if something crazy doesn't happen. You are the least physically capable, and you're not that much more mentally capable. So at least you're trying to do something. I understand where you're coming from, and obviously, because of your opinion, I can't change that, but yeah, at least it's something.
I totally get where you're coming from.
Pokes her with stick. Do something.
Do something. The only thing I'm thinking of is, maybe she could do something, but I genuinely don't think she can beat anybody but Lex. So I think she needs to keep him and shouldn't turn on him. But I totally get where you're coming from. You got to make it to the end to have a chance to win. So it ends up being 4 votes for Kim P, 2 votes for Lex. And you guys lose your winner pick here.
Yeah.
Garbage. She deserved to win.
And honestly, I think Kim P or Teresa, probably Teresa's probably the smarter person to get rid of here because she's a more dangerous player. But,
I think the reason she survived is because she's the more dangerous player. Because she was so likable, it brought her further.
Yeah. Not a huge deal. Kim P and Teresa should be the next 2 people to go, probably. Yeah. Either way. You don't want either of those 2 getting to the end because they're so likable. So whatever. But it should have been Teresa, but Kim P is fine. But you guys need to make new picks. So yeah. I know you guys know who wins, but knowing what you knew at the time, you have 5 people left. Who do you think wins of those 5?
And after I finished the episode, I called it to you, Ryan, right in front of you. I said it would be Kim J at this point.
Which shocked me.
Yeah,
I had to straight face it so
good
hard.
Luck.
I was just like...
I just felt it was going to be a better jury, and I felt if Kim made it to the end, people would be so angry at the top 3 alliance for wheeling and dealing all the way to the end that it was almost too easy to give it to one of them. So I felt that way, and I felt that Kim would make it there, not quite as a GOAT, but she would ride coattails, which is what UTR players need to do, under-the-radar players need to do, and I thought it would be her. So I picked Kim J.
Okay.
I remember really being focused on two people, and that was Ethan and Lex when I first watched this. I want to think that I would have picked Ethan, though.
Okay. I'm sure you want to.
Yeah. I do not remember who I thought was going to win, but I think I would have leaned towards Ethan.
Sure.
But I would have put Lex as my number 2.
Okay.
The one other factor that drew me to Kim was the redemption arc.
Sure.
I thought this might be the dawn of the redemption arc because she was next one to go like 3 times on Baran, and she was never good at challenges, and she was always next on the block, and all of a sudden she was in not a power position, but certainly in a safe one. So I was looking for the redemption arc here.
And you got it.
Maybe a little too early for editology, and I did certainly get a redemption, not to fruition, but almost there.
But it was certainly there. Best player of the episode?
Tom
Yeah. He wins immunity, gets rid of Kim P. Tom.
gets to enjoy a drink on reward.
Yep.
In a hot air balloon,
Yep.
watching a lion take out a gazelle.
Worst player is Lex just because he received votes. I didn't have, there's like no gameplay in this episode. So I just said Lex just because he got some more votes.
In hindsight, you can almost call it Kim J,
Sure.
but I do think it's Lex here.
If this wasn't a season with that counted, previous votes, I would say there wasn't a worst player this one because I thought everybody did fine. But since we have this rule in effect, it's got to be Lex, I think. Episode 13, Truth Be Told, Final 5. So we get a word scramble reward challenge for a car, which Lex wins. Everybody else is super irritated at him now because he's won so much.
The car, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing bad could ever happen from winning a car. So now at this point, Kim J wants Lex out. She's trying to convince Ethan to turn on him. Like, aren't you sick of him winning everything?
Nope.
And now Tom, he's got an interesting mentality. He wants Lex to go, but because he made a promise and shook on it, he can't break it, which he should. Tom, you got to break your promises sometimes in Survivor.
You got to have integrity.
But you got to have integrity. But his mentality is he wants Lex to go, and he wants Ethan, Kim, and Teresa to all vote for him, but he won't do it. Sometimes you got to get your hands dirty, Tom.
But if he would have been able to pull that off,
It would have been pretty brilliant.
damn.
But he doesn't, because Lex wins immunity.
Well, oops.
And by the way, at this point, I was telling Ryan, Lex will be the next one to go if he doesn't win immunity. Well,
You tried.
Teresa, she's next. She's donezo, unless she can pull off something crazy. So she does something awesomely crazy, and she tells Lex, yeah, I was the one who voted for you that one time, that mystery vote. That was me.
Hey, shoot your shot. Throw
Yeah.
the Hail Mary.
Yeah, next thing you try my work. Why not? And Kim J knows about Tom's plan. Like, hey, yeah, vote out Lex. It's fine. Let him go. Teresa tells Lex, yeah, Tom told me not to trust you. Basically implies Tom told her not to trust Lex, which didn't happen.
oh, it was better than that. She let Lex draw his own conclusions and then just didn't say no.
Yeah, she's like, I can't say who it was.
She does not win, but Teresa is the Tina of this season,
Yep.
and I love Teresa.
Teresa's great. And Kim J corroborates the story. It was like, yeah, he said he'd be fine if you'd go. He wasn't going to vote for you, but he'd be fine with you getting voted out. Boom. Tom just got dunked under that bus. And that's going to cause some problems. It's really good. Unfortunately, we have 3 guys, in Tom, Ethan, and Lex, who are so fiercely loyal to each other that I don't think anything would turn them on each other like that.
And I mean, ultimately, you have to see it as a good move to not go this way.
I think it was a bad move because it's going to end up being 4 votes Teresa, 1 vote Tom. I think maybe Tom should have been the person to go home here.
I think they're equal threats. Tom versus
Teresa?
I disagree. I think everyone played. Drop us in where we are. Everyone did what they could, how they could. I think Teresa's move was to go after Kim J and Lex. Lex is the most unstable. He's at the top. He's safe. And Kim J is at the bottom of the alliance. Try and get them to turn on the next biggest threat, which is Tom. I think that's the move. I don't think she can go after Ethan because Ethan, even though he's not really doing it, is accidentally employing the meat shield technique right now. He's got 2 bigger threats than him in front of him, but he is more well-liked.
He's secretly the biggest threat.
He's secretly the biggest threat. He's the biggest threat, and I don't even know if he knows it.
Yeah.
So Ethan absolutely plays it right by keeping around his 2 meat shields.
Ethan and Tom make the right move, I think, here in getting rid of Teresa. Ethan and Tom make the right move. Tom loses some ground, but I think ultimately they both make the right move. I think Lex and Kim should have flipped and knocked out Tom. I think they would have been better served because Tom has been better in the challenges than Teresa. I think they'll lose to either one of them, and they need to get rid of Teresa, Ethan, and Tom. All have to go for Lex or Kim to win. I think you split up that Ethan and Tom pair, get rid of Tom. He's a bigger physical threat. Yeah, I think Lex and Kim J play this wrong. And so I think best player is Ethan. I think, like I said, he and Tom do the right thing, but Tom loses ground in this episode. Ethan is not. So I think kind of by default, Ethan's the best player.
I wish I could give it to Teresa, but I know that that's against the rules,
Yep.
so it's got to be Ethan for just sticking to his guns and playing it right, keeping his meat shields in place. But I'm going to give an honorable mention to the voted out Teresa, who is still doing everything that she can to turn this game that got torpedoed by no fault of her own. I love you, Teresa, and I wish I'd have seen you on second chances.
I'm all for honorable mentions.
She is the best strategic player this season, for sure. Worst player, I think, is Lex again, because he keeps winning these reward challenges and just drawing a bigger and bigger target on his back. Don't win the reward challenges. Don't win the reward challenges.
But it's just too easy.
You don't win reward challenges. So Lex just draws a bigger target on his back, and he ultimately makes the wrong move, I think, in voting on Teresa.
I've got nothing I can say to dispute that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Because at this point, everyone's making the beds that they've lied in. Everything's compounded with previous poor moves, and Kim J has had many, many, many straight episodes of very bad decision-making for advancing herself in the game or putting herself in a better spot to win. So Lex is hurting his spot, and therefore the worst.
Yeah.
Just more in action.
Yep.
All right, welcome to the finale, the Final Four, No Regrets, which, fun fact, is the first episode of Survivor I ever watched. So I was 8 years old, second grade. My parents finally let me watch an episode. And my winner pick was Lex here. I had my Final Four to pick from. I picked Lex because I thought he was cool because he had tattoos.
Good enough reason to me.
Yeah. But so this is where all this, my love affair with Survivor began, was this episode right here. Which I think is a pretty good finale, honestly.
Was it instant love?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was awesome.
Love it first vote.
Yeah, love it first vote. So it starts off with a talk. Lex and Tom go out and have a talk about all the issues between them. Tom denies telling Teresa not to trust him, but he admits to being okay with Lex getting voted out. Lex handles this poorly. Tom handles this poorly. This is all bad.
It was a very interesting situation. I don't think I mentioned at the beginning of this. Since I have watched the season before, the episodes that I do watch are the premiere, the merge episode, and the finale. Also the reunion show, sure. I guess, along with that. But since I watched this was a really interesting just sequence.
Mm-hmm.
The confrontation, and then how it was really edited up to just go back and forth between... They were confessionals, but it was more like a commentary.
Sure.
Rather than what you might see like today, where you have the confrontation and then have the confessional and then it's over.
Sure.
It went back and forth several times, and I really, really liked that. But I will completely agree that this was very poorly done by both of them.
Oh, yeah.
It was a play-by-play, is I think
Yeah.
what you're going for, because they were breaking down the film like in front of us. That was almost the way they set it up. I'll go ahead and make a hot take and say this had absolutely no bearing on the game.
It ended up, I agree.
It's colossally bad gameplay, again, by Lex. I think that Tom got put on the defensive here. Because, Lex, come on, this is a strategic game. It's for $1 million. Of course, people are going to talk about you behind your back. And Tom says it best in one of his little cutaways where he says, if you're going to ride the white horse out front into battle, people are going to shoot at you. That is absolutely the truth. And I think if anyone's in the wrong here, it's Lex. And you know what? If you corner an animal, if you corner Big Tom, he's going to maybe lash out a little bit and be defensive.
Yep.
Ultimately, I don't think this has any bearing on the game whatsoever. It doesn't have any effect on what happens. Another bad move by Lex, but it didn't seem all that bad to me from it happened.
Ultimately, they patched things up, it seems, and I know they're really good friends in real life. They did a reality show together since then, and then it didn't end up going to air, but they were doing a reality show about Tom's farm, and so they're good friends to this day, so they have clearly patched things up. But basically, none of the three guys want to turn on each other. They're all so loyal to each other. They all should turn on each other, but none of them want to. Kim J is going to be the next to go.
Well, and I mean, and this is kind of going back to... It's really easy for us to say they should turn on each other, but it's the same reason why an alliance of 6 basically all goes together and then just gets turned and just gets picked off one by one by one. Mm-hmm. It's because no one thinks that they're at the bottom.
Got to be more self-aware.
Yes, and you have to be more self-aware, but when you're in the Final Four here and you're really looking at that closely, I think it can be really tough to determine that you are the worst out of 3 players.
And I think that's going to separate the good from the great.
It's true.
And that's why we have resumes nowadays. I honestly think that's just a talking point to help keep the audience abreast of the different accomplishments. And it's one thing I don't really love about Modern Survivor is the idea of the Survivor resume, but I do think at least it gives the audience a good idea of what have they accomplished this season, because again, we see 1% of 1%. So it's good and it's bad. I do think we lose a little bit of the game with that, but I think that's partially where it came from. So you know where you are in the pecking order, and it makes it easier for you to know when you should flip. It makes it easier for you to know when you should try and make a big move. I get it. I get it. I don't like it. I get it.
I also think it kind of makes it a little more predictable.
Sure.
Once you get towards the end.
I agree.
Just in Modern Survivor.
Absolutely.
Agree completely. So we go to immunity, which is at Tribal Council. It's the last time we're going to have the Fallen Comrades Challenge, which is a trivia about the previous contestants who had been already voted out. Very controversial challenge, actually. Because the final question for the win is which female contestant has no piercings whatsoever. No ear piercings, no whatever. Not including ears. They have no piercings. The correct answer is Kelly, which gets Kim Johnson the win. Unfortunately, how the story goes is the night of the reunion show, they're all watching it in the green room right before they go out on stage. They play that, and Lindsay says, wait, I don't have any piercings either. Yikes.
And by the way, Lex answered Lindsay.
Lex answered Lindsay.
And lost.
Would have been a tie.
Had this been accurate, it would have been another question showdown between Kim Johnson and Lex. Who knows, maybe Kim Johnson still wins and Lex, and everything plays out the same. But if Lex had won, Kim Johnson goes home here. Everything's different now. Everything. So basically what's going to happen is there's going to be some controversy. Tom and Lex are both going to get the second place prize of $100,000 instead, and both get invited back to play again. Like, they're guaranteed spots for the All-Star season.
Just, we're sorry.
Yeah. So that's basically what it amounts to. Yeah. And we never see this challenge again.
And I do wish we would get it more. Not this challenge. I do think it's good to get rid of this challenge just because I feel like it gives you more of like a fake incentive to kind of up your social game and just like be nice and get to know people, but only because you know that this reward challenge is coming down the line, not because you just genuinely have a good social game.
I think we got all the juice we were going to get out of this.
Yeah, but I do wish that they do have more immunity challenges at Tribal and go straight into the vote, because I think if you need to have two different plans that depend on who has immunity, and you have to know it right then and there.
There will be a few over the years that we'll get, including a few you haven't seen yet.
Ooh.
So we do get some of those, and they are fun. But it ultimately ends up being 3 votes for Tom, 1 vote Lex. And I think Ethan should have been that proper profession to go home here. Should have been Ethan.
But to his credit, he positioned himself behind two people who have bigger egos, who saw themselves as bigger threats than him. Ethan is in such a beautiful spot right now. He's not guaranteed the W, but man, oh man, he's playing good.
And it's almost effortlessly.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. It's like he's not even trying. He's just... I think it's genuinely he's just a really good guy. And
I think it helps that he's surrounded, like we've kind of mentioned, by people who are very commonly making mistakes, and like we've also said, there's been a ton of inaction. I think it really helps that he can just basically sit back and do very little.
Yeah, so Ethan should go here, but he's just so nice that he's not even targeted. Doesn't even get a vote. He never gets a vote the whole season until the end. He just like Tina, never receives a vote.
And they talk a lot about luck in this season, and Ethan says himself a lot of his personal Survivor success came from luck. I still kind of agree with the old adage that luck is where preparation meets opportunity, and he has set himself up great, and his opportunity just happens to be, hey, let these other people just cannibalize themselves down to nothing.
And I think a lot of his luck came from earlier in the season rather than later. Things like what were mentioned, like the tribe swap.
The tribe swap is obviously the big one.
Yep.
But I would say that was more Samburu shooting themselves in the feet than it was Baran doing anything particularly special. They're a great tribe, but they didn't do anything particularly special. All they did was do normal tribe things.
Yep. So I think the best play of this episode is Kim Johnson, because she won immunity saving herself. Getting rid of Tom is fine for her, because she can't beat Tom anyway. Tom or Ethan, it doesn't matter. They both have to go for her to have a shot.
As long as it's not Lex.
Yeah, as long as it's not Lex. I think it's Kim Johnson. Because she would have gone here if she had won immunity.
Yeah, I think it's a toss-up between her and Ethan. I mean, just by default, basically, but only because of the immunity thing, her winning it, I think you could edge it out towards her.
Sure. Worst player, I think, is Lex for just to blow up at Tom, and that's all I got. I mean,
The episode plays out how it plays out. That was definitely a negative. It's Lex.
One of the only things. If it wasn't for that, I would say that there's no worst player.
Yeah. What can you do? So, down to the final three, it's revealed Lex is pretty sick. He's been puking a lot. He can't keep anything down, kind of dehydrated. Not the time to get that. But what's interesting is if you go back all the way to the first episode, he gives a confessional about dysentery because Jessie's really sick. She can't keep anything down, and he kind of explains what she has. Foreshadowing. Lex gets it later, right at the end. Worst timing.
Is that what it actually was?
I think so. Because
Or something very similar.
It's dysentery or something similar.
And, I said it earlier about there not being a weather report to talk about, but, we talked about it in the first episode of this season, but the water situation, even if you boil it, sometimes you might just end up with something.
Yeah.
And I don't envy the people who ended up on this particular season of Survivor.
No.
So you can't pin it on him, and I'm surprised that more people weren't visibly sick on screen.
Sure.
I would still do it, though.
Oh, absolutely.
If this was my only chance.
So we get the Fallen Comrades thing where we get to hear, they go past the torches of all the fallen people. We actually get to hear from them this time, which makes it a little bit better, I think. But yada yada. Final immunity challenge, hands on the idol.
Basically the same thing as
the first time.
Season 1, except better because it's not just literally standing there.
Yeah, they made it a little harder.
Like your legs can actually really start hurting after in this position.
Yep. So Ethan's the first to go, and the story goes that a cameraman was filming this challenge and was right up kind of near him, and the heat was so intense the cameraman puked. It's set up earlier in the season. Ethan's biggest fear is vomit. This is what causes Ethan to fall. I believe this is unsubstantiated, but this is how I've heard the story. So they don't show it on TV because people would get upset about that kind of thing, I think. But I think that's why. And again, it's just like a referee in any professional sport. They're on the field of play. The cameramen are part of the field of play. They're moving around. They're getting their shots. They're going to do things that may distract you, including vomiting. It's the elements. You have to focus. So, even if they did show it on screen, it wouldn't bother me. It'd be like, tough. You should have focused.
And I think it's good that they didn't show it on screen because I think a lot of people would get upset.
Sure.
Just like a lot of people get upset about referees getting in the way in games.
Sure.
That doesn't stop people from being upset over it. Even though I 100% agree with you.
Sure.
It sucks. Especially if that's just your thing. That is extremely unlucky.
Yep.
Bad draw.
But it is what it is. Just like bad calls in sports.
Yep. That's how it goes. You let go. And then Lex, he ends up falling out too, probably due to the illness, I would guess.
It seems so.
So Kim J wins again. Back to back.
Very surprising.
I remember being just blown away when this aired the first time. I was like, really? So Tribal Council, Kim J votes out Lex. And honestly, I think this was the bad move because I think Kim J had a chance against Lex. Going into the final Tribal Council, Ethan versus Kim. Ethan had 6 of the votes locked up and lost a couple and gained 1. Yeah, Kelly was up in the air, but he was winning 6 to question mark. Maybe 1, maybe 0. And he lost a couple, but, going up against Kim versus Lex, you have Frank who doesn't like Lex. You have Kelly who doesn't like Lex. That's already a step up. So, I don't know. I still think Lex ends up winning, but I think it's 4-3, and, at least you have a better shot. Kim J's pretty good in that final Tribal Council, so I think she had a shot. So I think she makes the wrong move.
And I actually thought that she made the right move, but I might have taken more of a modern Survivor peek at this, just because Lex kind of won despite himself, and a lot of that might have been hidden mistakes where we can see it on television that these are bad things, but she even said at the reunion show, people loved Lex out there. Now, again, you talked about substantiation earlier, and it's hard to say what or what would not, but when I was watching and I knew that Kim J was my pick, I said she should vote out Lex because I think he was the bigger threat to win the game. Again, haven't read into it, don't know the mythos behind it. That's totally fine. But if I'm Kim, do think I would rather sit next to an Ethan, someone who's been more passive in their game, like me, whereas Lex can say, hey, you know what, I made my mistakes, but we are here because of what I have done. I have guided the ship into harbor. It's got bumps, it's got bruises, it's got leaks, but I am here. You guys rode on my ship, and she didn't want to be that person who came in riding on Lex's ship. At least it's first mate and whatever she was doing. So
I would agree. I think she was really self-aware, and you kind of heard that in the reunion, that she's like, you know what, I knew that it was going to be a long shot either way. She kind of backed up the reasoning of, like, she might have been able to get one more vote going up against Lex, and I agree with her. I think that she was going to lose no matter what. I think she was at most going to get 2 or 3 votes total, and she did get more votes than what she probably should have. I think
she earned a couple.
I think Ethan had a terrible final tribal, and maybe not terrible, subpar.
One element in particular with the Brandon element was really bad.
But I don't think it would have mattered either way, and I'm fine with her reasoning. She said that she didn't think that she was going to win, so she'd rather give it to Ethan.
And I get that, but also at the same time, go for the person you have a better chance against.
True, they could completely bomb at tribal, and you could somehow get a weird jury where you could swing 1 or 2 votes and then magically win. But you got to give yourself that chance. So I do understand going with Lex instead.
Yeah. Obviously, I think worst player is Kim Johnson because I think she made the wrong move there. I think best player is Ethan because he got Kim to take him to the end. They had a great relationship this whole game. So I think best player is Ethan.
Basically by default, but yeah.
All right, so Final Tribal Council, here we go. Right off the bat, we had some opening statements. Kim J is like, I don't know if you should vote for me. That's a great way to start.
We're not even 5 words into Final Tribal Council. Jeff basically pulls the curtain open. Okay, if you're listening and you get on Survivor, own your game. Don't tell people they shouldn't vote for you, and don't insult the jury and don't insult the person asking the question. If they ask a question that's going to end up poking a hornet's nest, you just need to be thoughtful. Try and turn it on its head. Try and make it into a compliment. If you can't, just be honest or pick someone to pick on that you know you don't have their vote anyway. You know, it's mitigate the damage at that point.
Kim J does this. That part.
She does that part, but these are the rules for Final Tribal Council. They're very simple. It's very easy not to screw up. Yeah, you can try and do some risky things to earn some votes, but for goodness sake, Kim, you probably shouldn't vote for me.
I don't know if you should vote for me.
No.
Go in being confident and, like you said, owning your game.
Here's why you should vote for me. And Ethan basically just wants to play with her integrity. This works for Ethan. Nobody else do this. Never, ever, ever mention integrity in your Survivor Tribal Council speech because nobody likes it anymore. You'll get yelled at.
I think you can mention it in a way that's like, I wanted to try to play with as much integrity. Now I know that it didn't end up working as much as I wanted it to, but I'm hoping that there's like some little bit there.
I don't think you should even mention that word. I think you'll trigger people on the jury, and they'll get mad at you because it's happened. Genuinely, anybody who ever wants to go on Survivor in your Final Tribal Council speech, do not even say the word integrity.
Now, if it gets brought up, I think you go full professional athlete and you just tiptoe right around it. You say, in the game of Survivor, there is no such thing as playing a game with perfect integrity.
No, there isn't.
In an ideal world, everyone would love to play this from beginning to end with integrity. But that is not how the game is played. That is not how I played it, and I will own up to that. And then if you can think of examples where you acknowledge some tribulations that occurred with some jury members, bam, you have just sidestepped the question, you have validated other people's concerns, and you've maybe shown some empathy because you can't always do that. But I agree with Ryan. Just own it. There is no integrity here. Don't pretend to have the moral high ground.
No, because you don't. You don't. And pretending you do will lose you the game.
Very few examples of people who actually have the moral high ground.
Ethan is the rare example where he does because he's a super nice guy. It'll almost never happen again. So there's not a whole lot of good questions here. There's only 4 I want to talk about. The other 3 are really whatever. But the first one I want to talk about is probably the biggest one, and that's Brandon's. And he wants to know who they'd both like to see win the most and who they'd like to see win the least out of the 7 jury members. They both pick Lex to win the most. That's fine. It's a wash. Totally fine answer. Kim J picks Tom. Great. That's a great answer because Tom is least likely to vote for Kim J. He's locked in. He is an Ethan pick. And Kim J is going to spend the whole time just ripping on Tom. And that is perfectly valid strategy.
Can only lose that guy.
And you've already lost, and let's be real. Ethan picks Brandon. Slams him on his own question. And what drives me nuts here is Ethan was going into this thinking it was going to be 3-3 with Brandon as the swing vote. Why the hell would you insult Brandon?
He said that in a confessional, like going up just like, yeah, Brandon might be the swing vote. And now, to clarify, I don't think you can never like insult the person. I think it really depends on the type of person, but I think some people would actually like see it as like, oh, respect. Even though it might be like I don't think you deserve to win, to be like, good for you for being honest, like with it, like I don't agree with it, but I appreciate your honesty. Hopefully you can read that Brandon's not that type of person.
Yeah. I think back to Colby and Tina, they kind of slammed Jerry a little bit on her own question. And if you're going to do something like that, it's got to be the person you aren't getting their vote anyway. Let's say Tom asked a question and Kim slammed Tom on his own question. That's fine. But the thing that kills me is Ethan sees Brandon as the swing vote. And what are you doing, Ethan? This might be Ethan's worst move of the game.
Who should have Ethan picked on? Because you mentioned it with Kim. You already lost Tom's vote. But it's hard because Ethan is going in 6-1 and he's just been asked a question where he alienates someone no matter what. So I'm over here, you guys are talking, I'm trying to think, who does he deflect to? Or do you just like take the L and say, you know what, I can't give you an answer on that, and then just accept it?
And I think that's maybe what ended up happening. I think he wasn't able to actually think of someone, and he just made a split-second decision, and it was just like a wrong one, because I think maybe he was answering truthfully.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe he was answering truthfully.
But the truthful answer wasn't the correct answer for in this situation.
You know, in hindsight, if Brandon's question had been later, I think Kelly's the right move because of her question with the she's going to do the numbers thing. But based on where it is, yeah, it's tough. I don't have an answer for you.
And the other one, in hindsight, did it come before or after Kim P's question?
Kelly was next, and then Kim P.
Okay.
And with Brandon, Kelly, Kim P.
Because, I mean, Kim J gave a great answer that wins over Kim P, and if you recognize that as Ethan, maybe you just say, okay, yeah, I get it, I've lost that vote. I'm just looking, I'm looking for anything here.
If anything, maybe I would go with, like, the first person out.
Sure, that's a good move.
So, like, the very first, just, like, sorry, or the person that you know the least.
Sure.
One of those two options. Now,
which would have been Brandon.
They know each person about the same amount, so it's tough. But I think you just go to the very first person that's on the jury and just say, sorry, you.
And knowing what we know, going into this, Ethan had 6 votes locked up. The only one he didn't have was Kelly, who was flip a coin. The correct answer is Kelly. I don't hold it against Ethan for not knowing that. But again, you make a really good point, Josh, where going after the first juror might be the safest bet just because she did the worst job. You know.
The hard part being was they were on the same tribe, though. Yeah. So maybe you pick the first Samburu to go out.
Brandon.
Well,
and that's where I think Ethan was just really caught off guard with it and answered truthfully. And that's where it's just so tough because I think he realized after the fact, just like, maybe that wasn't the best decision.
He loses Brandon's vote here. Ultimately doesn't matter, but yeah, Ethan was in a tough spot. Very tough spot with this question.
And I think because of that, you can't knock him too much.
Sure. So Kelly goes next, and she thanks Kim for voting out Lex and criticizes Ethan for not really forming a relationship with her ever. And then makes them pick a number between 1 and 1,000. Kim J picks 3.
4.
Yeah, Ethan should pick 4. But he ends up picking 888, I think, or something
800
like that.
something.
So I was about to completely rip on Kim for her answer. 888 is just as dumb.
Okay,
I'm going to say it is actually dumber.
Okay,
it's dumber.
Because you are in the position to completely lock up this vote by answering a 4. Even a 5.
Yeah, if I'm ever in this position, because some people might say picking a 4 is kind of a dick move here, you know?
I don't care.
Right. But some people, it's like the price is right kind of thing where you go $1 up. It's like, yeah, it's fine, but nobody likes you for it. What I do is I pick 4 and just be like, oh, I'm such a scoundrel.
You know what, though? And I'm going to go ahead and overanalyze this because that's what I do, and that's why we're here in the peanut gallery. There are 2 ways to play this. If you're playing with integrity, the move is 996. And if you've played a cutthroat game, the move is 4. And it's absolutely representative of your game. So if you've played a cutthroat game and up to that point where the jury answers, you've said, I will do what I need to in order to better my position in this game, and I won't apologize for it. Kim J says 3, I say 4. If you're Ethan and you're playing with integrity, you say 996 because now the odds are equal.
Sure.
I actually really like that answer. If you
explain it.
You have to explain it otherwise.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
You'd be like, you know what?
That's clever.
I led this game with integrity, so I'm going to go with this, even though it's stupid.
That's actually a really good answer, Derek. I never even would consider that. Well done.
But now you
Thank
know,
you.
in case you're ever in that situation and you get a stupid question like that.
I guess I'm coming from a mentality where I would play. I wouldn't play an integrity-filled, ethical game.
No, you would 100% say 4.
Yeah,
I am very
So
understandable.
okay, this is good. This is good. You're offering me another perspective. I appreciate it, Derek. That's why you're here.
But now
man.
you can lead in with that
That's really
explanation
good. I
and
like that.
hopefully not offend anyone.
But for the record, if
Pick
you
500.
if you're Kim and Jeff makes you answer first, 500.
Yeah. I personally go with 501 because it's the same odds, but
Fine.
It's like I feel like it'll be a little bit more maybe psychologically like wait, why 501? I think there's like a mighty little edge there. So 501 is my go-to answer for this question.
And that's fine.
Nice.
That's fine.
I respect it.
It turns out it's like 540 something. It's the name of
I think it's 538 or something.
it's
like
the
that.
number of the hotel room in the movie The Graduate, which I've never seen. And I guess it was a test to see who knew her the most. So it's like that's the number from my favorite movie. Okay.
It's like
whatever.
What?
Move
No
her.
one cares about you.
I don't like Kelly. So Kim P wants to know who they learn the most from and least from out there. And Kim J does amazing here and says Kim P and does a really, really nice like long thing about why she learned so much from Kim P. And it's really nice, really sweet. And she wins Kim P's vote with this. It's really impressive.
And it helps that it's 100% genuine too.
Oh, 100%.
So she deserves the vote, and not because of the answer, but just because like she should have her vote just in general.
And then least is Tom, which is great. Keep throwing crap at Tom.
Yep.
Whereas Ethan, he also does a good job. He says Teresa, another really good answer, but, you know, Kim P, she's the one asking the question. But he answers with least is Kelly. And he acknowledges, like, yeah, we didn't have a relationship. That was a mistake on my part. I'm sure there's plenty I could learn from her, but I didn't take that opportunity. That's a really good answer.
That's a really good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan probably answers that second part is better than anybody else could have.
Yeah. Because that is indirectly owning your game, and that's something that we champion. That's something that we talk about. Final Tribal Council, the best thing you can do is own your game. And that was him saying, I made a mistake.
And then the final one I want to talk about is real quick is Tom, who just asks some random question about goats. Hyenas eating their mush and then licking their hiney, and it's just bonkers insane.
Was this supposed to be a metaphor?
No, it was just Tom having a good old time.
Because I think Kim was trying to answer it like it was a metaphor, and I don't really know where it was going.
And Ethan knew, he was like, he's just messing around. I got his vote. It was really funny.
And I'm going to go ahead and say that Ethan answered this question correctly by laughing.
Yes. So we get a sneaky cut to the reunion show. And this fooled Derek. It was very funny.
It caught me for a second, and then I realized it right before we started reading the votes.
It fooled me back in the day, too. When I first watched it.
They did a really good job, though.
Yeah, because everybody's dressed the same way. Kim Johnson looks a little different, but everybody else looks basically exactly the same.
And I will say the only reason why I realized it was because the sound quality was a little bit better. So I'm like, are they in studio?
Before they read the votes, Ethan throws some shade at Kelly for like, yeah, that was a silly question to ask doing the numbers thing, which I loved. Like, can't do anything now because Kelly voted for Ethan. Can't change it now. Yeah, Kelly, you suck. But Jeff reads the votes. It's 5-2 for Ethan. With, both Brandon and Kim Powers voting for Kim J. So, did the right person win Survivor Africa?
Yes.
Yep.
Why?
He put himself in the best position to win and then let the entire world cave in around him. He let all the other people make all the other bad moves. It's almost like he recognized, to your point, this is how not to play Survivor, and just sidestepped the rubble as it all fell down around him. Didn't make any enemies, played well when he needed to. He somehow turned inaction into an actionable strategy. I don't think Ethan wins modern Survivor. I don't. Not with this game. I'm not saying he couldn't. I'm saying with this game, you don't win it anymore. But it was perfect for Survivor Africa and the cast that he was with. And you can go back to day one, and he did it the whole time. And he was consistent. So that's why I think that Ethan is the best.
Trying to think of anything I can add to that, because that was very much my reasoning. I just don't think that there's anyone who actually played a better game. I know you guys mentioned like Teresa.
Strategically only.
Strategically. Yes.
Teresa is better strategically than Ethan.
Yes. I just don't see another winner on this season. And from what I watched the second time around, it seemed like, obviously in the finale, but like the other 2 episodes that I watched, he seemed very aware. Or one of the most important traits in a survivor, I think, is awareness, because it can get you out of any situation and into any situation. Basically, like what Derek said, inaction becomes action if you are aware enough to realize that that's the kind of season that you're on, and that you don't really need to ruin your game by overplaying, which I think, and we will see, players do all the time.
Oh, yeah. I think Ethan's best player. He played a better strategic game and social game than Kim. Kim won more immunities than Ethan, so you could argue Kim J.C. had a better physical game than Ethan if you look at the numbers. Yeah, she's got 2 immunities. He's got 1. Granted, one of those was like social and memory, but Ethan's was a memory challenge too. So
that's a hot take.
I mean, he underperformed.
Ethan
for
underperformed.
What he should be able to do.
And Kim J heavily overperformed. She won that last challenge. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's an argument to be made that Kim had a better physical game than Ethan. At least where it counted.
And that's fair, but that's only one
That's
leg.
only one, and in my opinion, it's the least important of the 3. Socially and strategically, Ethan is better. Ethan deserves the win.
Yeah.
So, we have 3 people from the season who are going to return and play again. We got Ethan, Tom, and Lex. Do you guys want to see those 3 play again?
I want to see all 3.
All 3?
Yeah. Just because of the character that Tom is. I don't think he's a good player.
I think Tom's a better player than Lex.
I think Lex is 2 out of 3, and I think Tom is 1 out of 3. If it's just for entertainment value, I get all 3. I guess I wasn't really entertained by Ethan like all that much, other than just like him winning. But I'd be more curious just to see how he would perform on a season that doesn't look like this, that has different players.
Knowing that they all come back, I'm excited to see them all come back. I am sad to hear that Teresa's not coming back.
So close. She was on the ballot for Survivor Cambodia, did not get enough votes to come back.
Rip.
I don't know that there's anyone else on the season that I would be super psyched to see come back.
Frank.
No.
I want Frank back. No, I'm so happy all 3 of these guys come back. I love all 3 of them.
Absolutely.
3 of the only people that I actually remembered from
It was literally the
before
only 3.
watching this.
Literally the only 3 you got right in the game.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And that's probably because of the return season.
Sure.
And earlier this episode, I referenced one unforgettable player, and that is Big Tom.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So let's go to the reunion show. Just real quick, this is one of my favorite reunion shows. It is so funny because Brian Gumbel is a pervert. He pronounces Ethan's last name wrong. Kim P, Tom, and Brandon are all hilarious. I think this is a really fun reunion show.
Rest in peace, Brian Gumbel.
Rip Brian Gumbel. We'll never have him again.
I will say of the reunion shows that I've watched, modern and classic, this one is one that's worth your time. If you do go back and watch the season, watch the reunion show. If you don't watch the season, obviously you'll have no point of reference and don't bother. But this is a good one.
Yeah.
The early ones are.
And you get a lot of banter between the contestants and not just question, answer, shameless plug, shameless plug, shameless plug.
Twitter account. Follow me on Twitter. Yeah, none of that.
So it was fun. This was a good one.
Let's wrap this up. Who's the best player of the season? From the merge on, for both best player and worst player, it's merge on. It's like the final 10.
So from the merge on, I say best player is Ethan. I think that's why he wins. You can make an argument for Teresa up until that point, up until she goes home. She was the fighter, she was the thinker, she was strategic. But ultimately, if you played better or if more things fell your way and there is some, and I hate to say it, like true luck that goes into the game,
Yep.
you know, you have to give it to Ethan, or at least I do.
I would agree that it was Ethan for most of those reasons. I would be really curious because I think that there is a lot of potential for both Teresa and I'm going to stick with Kim P. I think both of them have a lot of potential. They just got a really bad hand dealt to them. But then again, I do think that there's still more that they could have done. So maybe there wasn't that much as what I thought. But yes, I would say Ethan.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Ethan's far and away. I mean, he and Teresa are the 2 best, but I think Ethan is the clear winner. Worst player of the season?
Lex.
Lex.
I was very much embarrassed to have him as my at merge pick to win because at the time
And he's fine until then.
Yeah.
But he collapses. He's got a pretty bad social game. His strategic game is not good. Great physical game. He's got the best physical game of the season. But the other 2, he is borderline trash.
We didn't even let you answer, Josh.
I think there's a strong argument for Brandon because he ruined his game because of one issue. And I think you need to look past something like that. Lex, even with all of his faults, he still brought himself to the final 3.
I think Lex ruined his own game and was saved by the grace of Brandon also ruining his own game. You know, Lex voting out Kelly, Lex should have gone home there. That was so bad, and only because Brandon and Frank happened to be the 2 people on this season that were supposed to work together.
I think that's an argument for Brandon being the worst player.
You know, and I think I'm not going to take it away from Lex and give it to Brandon, but I'll absolutely acknowledge Brandon as a legitimate answer here. I still think he makes the biggest mistake of the season, and it costs Teresa and Kimpi their chances at the title.
Technically Frank, but you know what?
We're being realistic here.
Yes.
I mean, I think you could, if you don't look at like way negatives, I think you could even toss like Frank in there just because of how just inactive he was.
Yeah, Frank is just kind of baseline bad.
Yeah, he's bad, but he's not awful.
Yeah, the other 2 are the trash.
And I think those 2 are the bottom 2, but I can't say that someone is that bad when they make it to 3rd. Because he could have been voted off way earlier than that and wasn't. Even if he did win immunities to get there too.
I think the difference for me in keeping it at Lex, and like I said, I can't argue with Brandon. I mean, that was colossally bad stuff, and refusing to work with anyone in Survivor is, I mean, that's a nail in the coffin. Lex, what carried him through all of his bad mistakes is his pre-merge game. So if I'm just looking at post-merge, he got to 3 despite himself, and that's just how I see it. But again, I can't argue with Brandon, but Lex had a very poor post-merge. So that's just my thought, but
I still
Brandon
think
is
it's
just
Brandon.
as good. Yeah.
Still my answer.
Yep. Yeah.
Jeff Watch, anything?
You know, there wasn't much with Jeff this season. He was a lot of the same as he was in season 2. He's coming maybe a little bit more into himself. You're definitely getting a lot less of friendly neighborhood Jeff. He's definitely taking on more of that "this is my show" persona, but nothing super of note here. I don't think we have any new Survivor mainstay phrases that are coming on. You know, we're moving, small steps, baby steps, but this is a lot like season 2.
Gotta remember it's only season 3.
This is season 3.
And anything you want to add to the weather report? There's no rain all season.
There's literally no rain all season here. The only thing that I mentioned before is that the water was obviously a really tough situation, and heat in and of itself, you can't really convey that through a lens. I think they did a pretty good job of it. I don't think that weather-wise this was as hard as of a season as Australia, but I do think it would have been much harder than Borneo. And overall, with the water situation, who's to say that this isn't the toughest one so far? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Between 2 and 3.
Yeah, weather isn't always just rain.
Yep. Josh, most memorable moment of the season?
I mentioned briefly in the first 2 seasons what I thought my memorable moments of those seasons are. This one was a little tougher, and 2 really stood out the most, but I think I would have to just decide that the most memorable moment of the season would be when the lions were outside of the camp. And that's just because before the season, that's the first image that kind of came into my mind, is the night shot and having just like the eyes pop out.
Sure.
And them being so close to camp, and I think it was Kim P and Ethan, I think it was, being out at night, just being like,
what?
They're right there.
Yeah.
Because as a viewer, I don't know what kind of other like guidelines are. I don't know if they're going to be okay if a lion like decides to jump that thing, or if a lion is even able to do something like that. And then I'll give an honorable mention to the movie date.
Yes.
I think those are the top 2 memorable moments.
Sure. All right, so moving on. Last thing we have to do is our season rankings. We've got to update the season rankings, add Africa into the mix. So anybody want to go first?
I can kick it off.
So far, Derek, your number 1 is the Australian Outback.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Borneo.
And I'm just going to go ahead and slide this one right in at the end.
All right.
I have talked about both Season 1 and Season 2 being must-watch Survivor, and to me, you just don't get enough new stuff and not enough great moments to overcome that. So, by no fault of its own, still loved the season, still have at least one unforgettable character and people who I will certainly remember, but not enough to push it up over Borneo.
I would agree. And even though my rankings are different than Derek's, my reasoning is about the same. Mine go right in order so far, 1, 2, 3. But I actually think this is fairly close to Australian Outback, but still below it.
And I'm going to mix things up. So my number 1 is Borneo. Number 2 is Africa. Number 3 is Australian Outback, and here's why. I do think Australia has a better pre-merge than Africa, but I prefer the Africa post-merge. I like Ethan better as a winner than Tina. Well, I think Tina's a better player. What I look at is which character do I think is a more satisfying winner, and I think it's Ethan over Tina, just because Tina got kind of screwed by the edit. I think it's really close. I think these two are neck and neck, and I would not be shocked to never see anything go between these two for this entire run through, because they are very close for me. Big Tom, Lex, and Ethan are great characters. I love the 3 of them. So I'm going to give it to Africa.
Yeah, I think there's just not enough memorable people in this one for me. But that's just my take on it.
Also Frank.
Yeah.
I love me some Frank. So that just about does it. I think that's it. So what we got next is Season 4, Marquesas.
And Derek, you said you don't really know much about it, if anything.
I know one player who was in it, and I know that player does not win, but that will be a discussion for the next episode.
Cool.
So that is all I know is one person who does not win.
And I'm excited because I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember too much about it, so I'll be interested to see what I remember as I'm watching it a little bit.
All right.
So again, good people, good day, good morning, and or good night. We have been the Castaway Consultants, and this has been the Africa Post Merge, and we'll see you next time.